Good afternoon and welcome to the Getting More Out of Your Branch Staff webinar brought to you by FMSI, a Kronos company. My name is Chad Davis, Senior Manager at Kronos, and I will be the presenter for today's call. Today we're first going to start talking about the workforce utilization management and why it's important. We're then going to review a recent study that we did on the overall top 10 and bottom 10 of the workforce utilization metrics. We're then going to look at why minimizing labor costs is important to your institution. We're then going to take a look at some additional metrics from the study around teller transactions per hour, teller salary and benefit rates, branch transaction volumes, and average processing hours per shift. After that, we're going to look at individual employee weekly payroll hours and why that's important to track. We're going to finish things off with both management tips and a staff scheduling software review with Sweeney from Kronos. At the very end, we're going to have an open discussion and Q&A session. On the right-hand side of your controls, you can see where you can type in questions. Please type them in and we'll get to them at the end of the presentation. Today's speakers include myself and Kip Sweeney. The FMSI Workforce Utilization Study applies business analytics from banks and credit unions across North America to the challenge of improving branch staff productivity and scheduling efficiency. This compilation of statistics from more than 10,000 financial services employees at over 1,000 branches from March 2016 through May 2016 offers a snapshot of retail branch banking workforce utilization rates comparing average, high, and low performers. This study also presents results from previous studies to permit a trend analysis. Applying these metrics can help your organization enhance branch operations by systematically leveraging workforce utilization activity records associated with each individual branch and employee to identify and support performance improvement opportunities. Also, it can track and measure undesired staff downtime and redirect idle staff to activities designed to boost service and sales, and determine the effectiveness of current scheduling practices and take a more deliberate approach to fine-tune employee alignment to activity through better scheduling tools. So why is workforce utilization management important? The primary role of frontline staff is to serve account holders. In a perfect world, these employees would be processing account holder transactions the vast majority of their paid time. However, due to an imprecise scheduling and unpredictable fluctuation in foot traffic, the real-world frontline staff spends a certain amount of time waiting to serve account holders. FMSI refers to this as idle time. When it comes to managing idle time, many financial institutions today continue to rely on an outdated manual approach to ensure that meaningful tasks are being undertaken. However, there are more effective alternatives both in the system employee to manage scheduling and monitor the amount of time that staff are actively engaged in serving account holders, and in the assignment of tasks, training, and coaching to replace idle time with more productive endeavors. The wide availability of detailed workforce utilization reporting and sophisticated scheduling applications allows FIs to better manage their branch staff's daily activity and, in turn, to boost productivity. So the source of the FMSI study information, the first step in managing workforce utilization is collecting and organizing actual payroll data and transaction processing data, which FMSI collects from its customers' HR and core processing systems, respectively. Looking at Figure 2 on this slide, you can see that the client submits the data. You see here it's HR data and transaction data from core systems. And then the FMSI processing client data is turned into workforce utilization reports by dividing the processing hours by payroll hours. This detailed information allows FMSI to prepare percentages at the employee, branch, and institution level. Figure 1 on this slide represents the top workforce utilization performers from this FMSI study. You can see the differences between, let's say, that the number 10 on the list, 81%, is a 9% difference from the top performing client institution from the study. The average percentage was 83% for the top 10. Figure 3 on this slide illustrates the utilization results of the FMSI study for the teller position. The steady uptick in the overall workforce utilization percentage over the 3 study periods indicates many FMSI client institutions are making strides toward more effectively utilizing the branch workforce through improved scheduling. Workforce utilization improvements apply not only to tellers, but to lobby service representatives as well. FIs are deploying all frontline staff more effectively and efficiently. These gains can be attributed to increased industry pressures like federal regulations, competitive forces, and narrow net interest margins, compelling FIs to work toward improving branch efficiency and frontline sales through smarter staff deployment and scheduling. By leveraging more sophisticated scheduling systems powered by forecasted account holder activity levels, these institutions are minimizing lost labor costs associated with employee downtime. The average workforce utilization rate for both the top 10 and bottom 10 categories dipped in 2014, but they rose significantly in 2016, indicating progress toward ensuring that staffing is aligned more directly with branch traffic and idle time is reduced. There are several tactics these institutions can focus on to keep this trend moving in the right direction, which we'll review later in this presentation. A significant difference between the 3 categories reported in this study is that the frontline staff of the top 10 performers complete more transactions per hour than employees in the other 2 categories. This may be due in part to the higher transaction volume in top 10 branches, but it also suggests that high-performing FIs have designed transaction processes, scheduling, and staff training to handle that higher volume as efficiently as possible. As you can see on this slide, the top 10 had achieved a 17.42 teller transaction per hour, and this is roughly 3 transactions more per hour than the bottom performing institutions. This may not seem like a lot, but it adds up over the weeks and months in the year and can significantly impact efficiency. Salaries and benefits paid to frontline personnel are similar for the top 10 and bottom 10 categories, both of which are higher than the overall average. But high-performing FIs are able to get more out of their investment in terms of more cost-effective deployment of their staff. One advantage the top 10 performers in this study may have is higher transaction volume, which makes it easier to maintain high workforce utilization rates. FIs with low volume branches struggling to improve workforce utilization percentages may want to consider employing alternative staffing practices, such as universal associates. Lobby service representatives at most FIs are processing interactions with account holders in the range of 3 to 5 hours per shift. The broadening of the curve for 2016 suggests that overall utilization is increasing, but more work is needed to improve and adhere to scheduling, expand the responsibilities of frontline staff to include more sales-oriented activities, or implement new staffing models in response to declining branch traction volume and account holder service expectations. Branch management is able to drill down into the workforce utilization percentage for each individual. Employee per week with sophisticated staff productivity reporting applications. Trending an institution's monthly workforce utilization percentage provides senior level management with the high level information they require to determine if they are maximizing the staff investment. Oftentimes, CEOs and CFOs hold their management teams accountable with this powerful information. When we look at the information on this slide, is 23% idle time for Glenda Gibbs an acceptable outcome? It is important to know what you expect from certain positions as an organization and have those expectations clearly defined and monitored. Next, we're going to review two different financial institutions' actual workforce utilization performances. The first is a standard performer. The teller position is typically a position that should have a much higher workforce utilization percentage due to its primary nature as a processor of transactions. Conversely, teller supervisors, branch managers, and other non-teller positions will have a much higher non-volume percentage compared to other tellers. As an example, you have Becky here with a 12.6 average transaction per teller hour compared to Sam Little from the Stevens branch with 23.8. The second institution we're going to look at is a low performer. Low workforce utilization percentages indicate an improperly staffed branch. While this branch in Figure 12 more than likely has enough staff during peak transaction times, they are clearly experiencing plenty of downtime. See Barbara and Beverly as an example. The scheduler can improve staff productivity through more deliberate scheduling tactics, like better utilizing part-time staff or not replacing staff when they leave due to attrition. With crucial service levels to uphold, having detailed workforce utilization reports helps support these sometimes difficult decisions. We're now going to review some management tips. The first management tip is establishing part-time tellers at 90% workforce utilization goal. Utilization percentages, processing time versus available paid hours, as a reminder of what that is of part-timer tellers should reflect a higher percentage. Part-time staff are scheduled during the peak volume demands to ensure the highest level of service experience for your account holders. Full-time tellers would be optimally utilized at 75% or higher, resulting in a lower labor cost per transaction. The difference in part-time teller labor cost per transaction between top 10 and bottom 10 suggests that high-performing FIs are better utilizing lobby tracking and staff scheduling software to more effectively track and forecast lobby traffic patterns and cost-effectively schedule part-time staff to meet those service demands. The effective scheduling of part-time tellers to handle that duration of higher transaction volume periods reduce idle time and overall staffing costs. All right, next management tip here is replace some full-time staff with part-time staff. When attrition occurs, consider replacing these positions with part-time staff. All FMSI clients receive monthly staff optimal versus actual key performance indicators. One of these metrics is the full-time employee net difference number. It shows FIs exactly how much full-time equivalents they are currently over and under compared to their forecasted optimal staffing number. Learn more by downloading FMSI's part-time teller white paper found on our website in our resource library. The ability to specifically identify and quantify idle time is the first step towards scheduling additional sales-related activities, such as training and supervisor coaching sessions or outbound sales relationship calls to account holders, which can lead to improved branch sales. See Ruth Hopper as an example on this slide right here, outbound during idle time period. So another management tip here, implementing universal associate staffing. This innovative staffing model involves retraining tellers and lobby service representatives to deliver the full range of person-to-person services, basic transactions, new accounts, loan applications, and conversations to identify account holders' financial goals and needs. The potential benefit of universal staffing include improved workforce utilization, more responsive service, increased flexibility in scheduling, and more rewarding work opportunities. Branch transaction volume, service expectations, and market demographics can help identify where this strategy is most appropriate. Reporting tools associated with workforce utilization can aid in universal staffing implementation. Learn more by downloading FMSI's Universal Staff White Paper on this topic. Next, I'm going to hand the presentation over to Kip, who is going to give you a closer look at how to utilize staff scheduling software to maximize workforce utilization in your branches. Kip?
Thanks, Chad. Today I'll be just demonstrating the Omnix staff scheduling application. We'll create a schedule, we'll manage that schedule, we'll talk a little bit about the importance of maximizing our workforce utilization. To begin with, I want to give you an example of some of the building blocks for schedules that FMSI accounts for as it creates an automated schedule in the system. And the two key building blocks are both what we call need, which represents the total of all forecasted work to be done in the branch, which could be teller, platform, operations, admin, all the work in the branch. Along with, we account for each employee's position, the payroll commitments that they've been given, whether that's full-time or part-time payroll hours, when they need to take breaks, proficiency, and things like that. So what I want to do is I want to actually take a look at an employee and show you a couple of the different categories of attributes that we have when we set up an employee. So as I mentioned, we'll set up breaks and meal rules for employees, when they can be taken, how long the breaks last. We'll set up the employee's availability, when they are eligible to work, when they absolutely must work, or the days that they need to be off. We define minimum and maximum daily payroll hours, locations where they can work, roles, and the availability, the window of time where the scheduler can choose based on the need to schedule that employee. So that's a look at one of the employees. We're going to go from here. We have all the employees loaded into the system. We're going to go ahead and create the schedule, which again is going to match the need with employees. We're going to create schedules for the month of January, and I'm going to click Start Auto Schedule, and in about 30 seconds we'll have created schedules. All right, our schedules are created. I'm going to go over to the weekly editor, and as a branch manager, I'm going to take a look at the schedule that the system produced. One of the differentiating factors of the FMSI tool is that while we do create schedules that match employees with need, we don't lock users into the outcome of the scheduler. We provide ways for them to override and to manage to the nuances of their branch. So here's my weekly schedule. I can see all of my employees over here to the left, every day of the week, the schedules, the positions that the employees are working. If I hover over a shift, I get the exact detail of each of the shifts. And let's take a look at some of the features of this weekly edit view. Let's say, for example, that Dave is going to be working the next Monday and Tuesday, 7:45 to 4:30, every Monday and Tuesday for the next 4 weeks. So what we want to do here is we want to lock those shifts in, because when the scheduler ran, it looked at the need and it looked at Dave's availability, and it made the decision about whether or not to schedule Dave on these days. So what we're going to do here as a manager, part of that override, is we're going to say, I want to lock these shifts in so that the next time the scheduler runs, it accounts, it's going to create this exact same schedule for Dave. So I'm going to click on this little pin icon here, and you can see it's locking down the shifts. It will still optimize the rest of Dave's week and make sure that he reaches his payroll commitment, but it will lock down these 2 days. The next thing we're going to do is Bryce here needs to move his Friday shift to Saturday. So I'm going to click on his Friday shift and drag it over, drop it on Saturday, replace. So we've made that minor update there. Next, Leo and Lisa are going to swap their Friday and Saturday shifts. So I'm going to grab Leo's shift and place it over Lisa's. I'm going to do a swap. So I've made the minor edits from a weekly standpoint that I need to make. I'm going to go in and drill into a particular day. There's a couple of key insights that we get when we look at the day view in the scheduling application that's not available on the weekly view. And we talked about workforce utilization, the amount of time that staff spend processing activities versus the amount of time they're paid. And what we want to do is, most organizations have a workforce utilization target of 80%. So I'm going to go in and I'm going to look at my Tuesday, just as an example. And over here we have that scheduling score, the schedule fit. We're at 61%, and as you can see, we've got some considerable overstaffing here in the morning. And what this graph is showing me here is we have the need, again, the sum total of all the work, versus the FTE that have been scheduled. So here we've got considerably lower need, especially in the morning and in the late afternoon, than we have employees scheduled. So this is an insight for me as a manager that if I do have someone that calls in sick, let's just say Jeff calls in sick, I'm going to right click and I'm going to remove his shift. The graph's going to update, the schedule statistics are going to update, so I can see that my schedule fit percentage increased and my understaffing or my overstaffing decreased. So that's a good sign. I don't need to call someone else in. And let's say, for example, that Lisa has a sick child. She would like to come in a little bit later. That's also fine because, again, we've got a lot of overstaffing here in the morning. I'm going to click and drag her shift so that it starts at 11:30. And I'm going to remove her meal. So you can see now we've mitigated that overstaffing considerably here with those two changes. And our scheduling fit percentage, which is a representation of our workforce utilization, has gone up from 61% to 70%. So we're in a much better situation. I'm going to go back to our weekly view and finalize the schedule. So I'm back on the weekly view. And what I'm going to do from here is, since I have everything working the way I want for this week, I'm actually going to take this week and I'm going to copy the schedules from this week to the following week so that everything will stay the same. So I'm going to go and select schedules for this week, move them to next week, and copy schedule. We do provide a lot of flexibility here as to what gets copied, so managers who become more accustomed with the system can choose from copying just specific things. So it provides, again, providing the managers with the ability both to create data-driven results, but also to account for the nuances in the branch. So I've copied the schedules. I'm going to go ahead and approve the schedules, which will notify the management team, the float managers, that I've finished scheduling in the branch, so that if they need to review, they know this is the final published schedule. And I'm going to approve all of the weeks. And then lastly, I'm going to email the schedule to one of my employees, to Bryce. So I've sent the email. From here, I have the option to export my schedules to Excel or to print the schedules for posting. So that's an inside look at our scheduling application. Thank you all for watching. Chad, I'm going to turn it back to you.
All right. Thanks very much, Kip. In a higher competitive environment made even more challenging by continued economic uncertainty, efficient branch staffing is crucial. FIs that can meet account holder expectations for prompt, professional service without excessive idle time can set themselves apart in the marketplace, both in terms of quality of service and financial performance. As we reviewed in this presentation, applying business analytics through workforce utilization optimization can help meet these imperatives by systematically leveraging workforce utilization activity reporting associated with each individual branch and employee to address performance improvement opportunities. The use of sophisticated scheduling and lobby tracking systems provides both the means to more effectively deploy frontline staff and easily accessible data to measure progress toward the goals of enhanced branch productivity and increased sales. Tracking, measuring, identifying, and redirecting undesired staff time, high-performing FIs rely on automated systems to reduce idle time and to increase the time available for sales training and activities within the daily schedules of existing personnel and managers. And also determining the effectiveness of your current scheduling practices and staffing model and taking a more deliberate approach to fine-tuning employee alignment to activity through better scheduling tools. These practices are consistent with trends in branch operations toward the universal associate staffing model and sales as a service culture. By turning idle time into time spent learning and applying new skills and responsibilities, FIs can expand the responsibilities of frontline staff and supervisors beyond processing transactions to expand relationships with account holders and to better measure the outcome of those interactions. Idle time can no longer be accepted as a cost of doing business. With the wide availability of detailed workforce utilization reporting and sophisticated scheduling applications, FIs can now proactively assign meaningful tasks and transform this lost cost into a more productive use of valuable resource. The ability to identify when idle time is occurring through the utilization of robust reporting and scheduling tools and holding people accountable are the keys to next-level workforce optimization. All right, next up here, we're going to start our Q&A session. We're going to start with the first one, which I'll take and answer. What's the best way to manage workforce utilization percentage in smaller, lower volume branches? And really it depends on your institution and how you like to handle certain types of policies as it relates to dual control. Some of the institutions that we have aren't as strict in that aspect, and you can always open a branch with one employee and take different security measures around that and accountability measures, such as security cameras and different things like that. On top of that, though, if you do have dual control requirements, you're really stuck with a limited transaction volume, so it's difficult to reduce the number of staff in those lower volume branches. So another way to increase workforce utilization is to implement a universal staffing model. So you can have people that can be on the platform side of the branch and handle different types of member service or customer service, loans, things like that, and then be on the teller line as needed. So you can improve the utilization of those employees as opposed to having employees dedicated to platform and tellers separately. So hope that answers the question. Next question here is for Kip. The question is there a way to count face-to-face service time and workforce utilization percentages?
A good question. Answer to that is really yes and no. Let me give you two examples. In the first example, let's say we have a visitor come up into a branch and they're going to do a balance inquiry, which is a transaction that's actually typically tracked in a core system. That's going to be a face-to-face interaction that we will capture and that we will track and will be reflected in the reporting. In the second example, we have a visitor that comes in and let's say they just walk up to the teller or the platform and they start talking about, well, what are your mortgage rates and what kind of documentation do you require and things like that. But it doesn't result in a loan or any kind of tracked activity or transaction. That's a piece we're not going to get because there was no record of that interaction.
All right, makes sense. All right, looks like we have time for one more question, and I'll take that one. It's, are tasks like scanning and ATM balancing counted in workforce utilization percentage? Well, they are tracked in the sense that we have processing time that is tracked, and then we have tasks times that are tracked, and as well as idle time that's tracked. So the workforce utilization percentage as it is tracks, you're looking at the processing time, in particular compared to the overall paid time. But the difference between processing time and paid time, you have bubbles in there that represent, meaningful activity, and then idle time, which is what we all don't want, where basically employees are standing around waiting for work. Yes, the answer is yes. We do ultimately track that, and you can see that in the reports and in the scheduler. But it's not necessarily in the workforce utilization processing time. It's separated out in a different category. So, well, that's all the time we have for today. I wanted to thank everybody for being on the call and joining us. If we did not get to your question, we will follow up on an individual basis. And again, thanks everybody, and please look at our website for additional resources, white papers, webinars, and thought leadership articles. All right, thank you and have a great day. Bye-bye.